Okay, so a couple of weeks have gone by since we did the last video with the body off the Thomas, and as you can now see, most of the body is on the Thomas. It's a detachable rear entrance, so at the moment we haven't got the back on, which gives you an opportunity to see what's there with the motor and see how accessible the motor is and the transmission by removing the back. Now, the Model 17 Thomas was the only Thomas they made with a detachable rear entrance. By the Model 18 in January of 03, that actually fixed the rear entrance section of the tonneau, and that actually turned the motor around 180 degrees as well. So, as I mentioned earlier, this is the correct solar headlight. I was lucky enough to find that at Hershey one year. Very happy that day. If you come around here, you see these are solar side lights. Thomas traditionally fitted cars with solar side lights, although obviously, like any car of the day, if you decided you wanted something else in particular, you could have them. This is the Thomas Oiler, manufactured by the Sherwood Manufacturing Company in Buffalo, New York. Again, as I mentioned earlier, a great Hershey find. These are the actual drips. There are 7 of them, and they are timed at somewhere between 4 and 12 drips per minute, and they go to the big ends, the main bearings, the bearing on the other end of the crankshaft for the transmission. They also oil the push rods for exhaust and inlet. This is the coil box. So you can, if it's not buzzing when you want it to, you can actually open that up and hear it buzz. On the other side of that, we've got a period correct ever-ready clock, which would have been an accessory, and a Warner Autometer with trip and odometer. Over here, as I mentioned earlier, is your gear lever, first gear, second gear, advance and retard, and accelerator. This horn, which is fairly unique, I've never seen another one. It's been on the car since the 60s that I know of, and may well have been fitted to the car from the beginning. And of course a mirror which for safety tells you what's happening behind you. So these are individual bucket seats. To the best of my knowledge, this is the original upholstery on the front. When I purchased the car, it was very dry and very cracked and very aged. We keep a lot of moisturiser up to these seats, and a bit of red boot polish goes a long way as well. So whilst the back has been reupholstered, this, as I say, to my knowledge, is the original upholstery on the front. So if we come back round to the back, you'll see that we've got the tail light, which you have to be very careful of, because the way the detachable rear entrance sits, if you don't think about this first, you'll end up banging that around, which I confess we've done occasionally. So you can see how easily accessible the motor is. At the end of each day's touring, I remove the crankcase cover and I grease the main bearings, the big end bearings, and I check that everything's all right in there. Every couple of days I put grease in the transmission. There's about 8 different greasing spots in the transmission. It doesn't have any seals, so it would never have held oil. And I just check everything out generally. And the easiest way to do that is to pull up in the car park of the motel we're staying at the time, and with some special stands that we take with us, remove the back, check everything out, put the back on it, and put it to bed for the night. So the next thing we'll do is give it a crank so you can hear it running, and then after that we'll put the back on and take it for a drive. Cut. So the process for starting the car is reasonably simple. On this side here we have 2 levers. This lever here is the choke lever, and this is originally the decompression, but I've got to tell you it never really worked very well. It opens the inlet as opposed to most decompressions which open the exhaust valve. And this particular car's got a lot of compression, so it's quite hard to throw over without the decompression, but that's the way we do it most of the time. So the simple process normally is, first of all, check your advance and retard. In this case I've got this set so that at 3 clicks, 1, 2, 3, the timing is set at exactly top dead centre, so that it won't kick back on me and I'm not trying to force it when it wants to spark as the piston is coming up. The next thing I would normally do is close the choke altogether with the ignition off and crank the motor over. That gives the piston a gutful of fuel, the cylinder a gutful of fuel. I then take the choke off nearly all the way, and by nearly all the way I mean it leaves just a little bit of a rich mixture there for the car to actually fire on. I then turn the ignition on, bring it up to compression, and it starts. I then advance the timing by 3 notches again, and it'll sit there and idle. Once it's warmed up, you can knock it back to 4 on the advance and retard, and you can virtually hear every single cylinder. So in a couple of minutes, we'll put the back on and take it for a drive. Okay, so we've now got the detachable rear entrance on the back. These are very period correct, typical side baskets for picnics, luggage, so on and so forth. So if we come around the back here, we'll see the way the back actually slides on. When the back was off, you saw it was on an angle, and this bottom of the body is on an angle as well. So to put the body on, all we simply do is slide it forward. It drops down, and then we have these overlatches that hold the body and make sure that it can't go anywhere when you're going down the road. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you have to take the tail light off, and I'll show you why right now. So as we can see, the top of the tail light is higher than the bottom of the body. So, been there, done that, made the mistake, pulled it forward without doing it. Won't do it again. So we tighten the tail light down, and then we're ready to go driving. Okay, so the start procedure is exactly the same as before. We retard the spark all the way, we advance it 3 notches, and I listen and feel for those. I turn the oilers on. With the ignition off, I turn the motor over with the choke closed. As I said, that just gives it a good gut full of fuel. Bring it up to the compression stroke. Throw it over. Turn the choke off. Turn the ignition on.